Welcome back. Another episode of Cleats Off the Couch. Guys, we have gotten one team done from each division in the AFC, and today means we start one team from each division in the NFC, looking at where we think they'll fall. And as with the AFC, we'll start in the NFC looking at the North Division. So let's get going. The Minnesota Vikings, probably the worst one to start off with because I think there's so many different predictions that have Minnesota doing well or doing not well. They look like a roller coaster. Everybody always hates on Kirk Cousins. I don't know about you, but I think Kirk Cousins is an underappreciated quarterback, always has been. He gets the job done. He usually is right around, 10th best quarterback in the league, something around there. He is the kind of quarterback that would manage a team well enough to win a Super Bowl. I really do think so. Now, don't think I'm getting ahead of things here. Me saying that he's a good enough quarterback, I think, to manage a Super Bowl caliber team does not mean that I think the Minnesota Vikings are a Super Bowl caliber team. So with that, last year the Minnesota Vikings went 8-9. The NFC North just owned by the Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers, I own you, right? To the Bears. I see some changes happening this year. Obviously the Davante Adams trade is huge. And the Packers are going to drop a few games. They went 13-4 last season. I do see them dropping back some. I still see the Packers winning the division, but the Minnesota Vikings are a team that I think have fringe capability this year to reach wild card in the playoffs. And honestly, depending on how well their defense does, their defense, if healthy, especially if what's his name up on the defensive line, Danielle Hunter, if he stays healthy. It's a whole different defense. It's a whole different football team. I think with the safety, Harrison Smith, and some of those corners that they have out there, Patrick Peterson, Andrew Booth, I think that they have some capability. Linebacker, Zadarius Smith, so they do have pieces in place for a solid defensive year in Minnesota. Offensively, obviously, you got Dalvin Cook. Need I say more? No, you got Dalvin Cook. They have a solid line. I think, if I remember correctly, I think they shored up a little bit of their offensive line, but they've got Justin Jefferson, arguably a top 5, top 3 top receiver in the NFL. The guy is phenomenal. You got Adam Thielen, the surprise old man, right? You've got Kirk Cousins, who's reliable. I'll say that again. And so they've got pieces in place to have a solid year. The question is, will the coaching staff take them to where they need to be? That's always the hard part, right? Especially with newer coaching staffs. And I believe last season was the first year for that group, right? So I think moving forward this season, we're going to see some pretty good gameplay. 8-9 last year. I think Minnesota is going to probably do around the same, if not a little better than that. I was looking at some I think the people on NFL Network or something like that talking about going 7-10. But again, those are the people who many times hate on players like Kirk Cousins, who actually do pretty well. But this all hinges, as with a lot of these predictions, whatever you want to call them, they have a lot to do with who's going to be healthy. If Danielle Hunter is healthy, it's a completely different team. If Dalvin Cook is healthy, completely different team. I really do think so. And so looking at the Minnesota schedule, not wasting any time today, jumping in there, they start the week off. And again, last time I had talked about, it seems like there are so many teams that are playing division weeks. Well, I guess if there's been a chunk of teams that I see playing division weeks within the first 4 weeks, like 2 in the first 4 weeks, which just seems insane to start the season that way. I think then we're going to see that across the league. They're going to be setting up teams to play within division. But they open up against the Green Bay Packers. They're at home, so that does go their way, right? Sunday afternoon game. It's going to be hard to say because Green Bay still has Aaron Rodgers, right? They still have I can't remember the running back's name right now, but arguably a top 3 running back in the league right now. If you look, I think he and Derrick Henry are the only two in 3 seasons to make like 4,000 rushing yards and 30 total 30 TDs or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I just saw that stat the other day or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but great running back, great running game. And in fact, I think what Green Bay is going to need to do is do the older Peyton Manning years, which is hand the ball off and then let Aaron make plays when Aaron needs to make plays, because obviously we know that he can. But without Davante Adams, it's going to be a completely different offense there. Defense is still going to be excellent, if not better than last year. But the same goes for Minnesota. That offense looks like it can be darn good. Darn good. The question is, what will the Minnesota defense look like against Green Bay's offense? That's going to be the question. I think Minnesota beats the Bears twice, splits with the Lions, splits with Green Bay. And so we're looking at potentially a 4-2 in the division. That might be a little much. 4-2, 3-3. AFC North football, other than the Green Bay Packers owning the Bears, right? Looks like a team that will consistently split. They look like teams that will consistently split within division. So I'll go either 4-2 or 3-3. We'll look at it in situations in the year and stuff as I scroll through the schedule through these predictions. But I'm going to give the win, a surprise win probably for a lot of people, to the Vikings over Green Bay to start the year, making people start, the whole drama and stuff of is Green Bay going to be the same without Davante? And they'll be fine. It's Aaron Rodgers. They'll be fine. They have an excellent defense, So Tom Brady, without many, sometimes without high quality receivers, but an excellent defense. Think about the Super Bowl years. Green Bay will be all right. Green Bay will be all right. But I think Minnesota could come out and get a win, everybody healthy week 1. Hopefully no preseason injuries or anything like that. But I'm going to give the win to the Vikings, actually. I don't remember what I did for the TikTok Live schedule prediction, but 1-0, start the season. Surprising. And then the travel to Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, that's a movement over to the East Coast, not too far from Minnesota, but I'm going to give the win to the Eagles. Again, the Eagles, to me, they're probably my sleeper pick in the NFC right now. I think they look like a team that could surprise everybody. Obviously, for some reason, loves the Cowboys and thinks the Cowboys. And I think the Eagles will win the NFC East this year, surprising people, as well as might have a surprise run. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how Jalen Hurts can do. We'll see how Jalen Hurts can do with all the weapons he has around him now. But we got a win against Green Bay, a loss against Philly, 1-1. And then week 3, I'm going to give them the win at home over Detroit, making them 2-1 to start the season. And then traveling to New Orleans. And this is going to be over in, is that over in London? Tottenham? I don't know. I don't remember where that stadium is. But over the Atlantic is the important thing to understand here. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota loses overseas. I don't know what their record is against teams when they play out of country, but I'm going to give the win to New Orleans. It's an interesting predicament. New Orleans isn't a team I think is going to do phenomenal, but they do have a good defense. They do have some studs like Michael Thomas, obviously, on offense. And so last season, too, with Jameis Winston, when he was healthy, he was having one of the best years that we had seen from him. Consistency and all numbers. So, and then he obviously injury changed that. But I'm going to give the win to New Orleans here. I just think we're going to see some up and downs from a team like Minnesota. We always do. And so, and one of the things I can't forget, guys, is seemingly, those are preseason games. They're like, why are they Saturdays? I'm looking at the schedule here, confused out of my mind, but the ones that are on Saturdays are preseason. They're not regular season. Okay. Hoodada. But I got to pay attention to the Monday Night Football game against the Eagles. Yeah, that's definitely a loss. Kirk Cousins is like 1-8 or 1-9 on Monday nights. So that just plays in that. I wanted to pay attention to that. So they're at 2-1 though. And then at not at New Orleans, but in Hotspur Stadium, I'm going to give the win to the Saints, so 2-2. And then they're going to be back home against the Bears. I'm going to give the win to Minnesota, putting them at 3-2. And then they're going to travel to Miami, to Hard Rock Miami, a team I've talked a lot about being a huge potential, but not fulfilling that potential is my prediction for this season. I'm going to give the win to I see that's another thing. Minnesota up and down, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to come back to that Miami one. That one to me is a question mark. It really is, and I hate doing it this way, but I'm not sure. I want to see how I feel about things throughout the rest of the season. A team like Miami, Cardinals coming in week 8, that's another team that's kind of like, how is that going to work out? So we got them at what though? What did I say? 3-2, and then we got Arizona in week 8. I'm going to give the win to Arizona there because, again, Arizona's a first half year team. That one's not as hard to me as Miami just because the statistics show Arizona wins games in the first half of the year. So that's going to put them at 3-3, and then they're going to travel to Washington. I think Washington will be kind of similar to Minnesota in some sneakiness in some games because their roster is actually not bad. Washington's roster is actually not bad. I've talked about before, Carson Wentz is a better quarterback, I think, than people give him credit for. He showed a pretty solid year last year within Indianapolis. There's more than just a quarterback on a team. That's all I'm going to say about that. The question is, how will his leadership pieces that we heard about from Indianapolis, how will that work out in Washington? Will he fulfill the necessary shoes there as a starting quarterback? I don't know. I'm going to give the win to Minnesota, though, putting them at, what does that put them at? 4-4, I think. And then at the Bills, win to the Bills, 4-5. And then the Cowboys at home. Cowboys do better on the road from all games I've seen. And so I'm going to give the win to Dallas here. I think Dallas and Minnesota will match up very well. But if it was in AT&T Stadium, I'd probably give the win to Minnesota. But they're at home, and Dallas plays better at least from what I've seen. They've played better on the road. My father-in-law is a Cowboys fan, and he always jokes. He always makes comments about how they can't win home games. So obviously they can win home games, but they don't win as many. So I'm going to give the win to Dallas, though, and making them, what would that be, 4-6, and then at home against New England, I think we cannot underappreciate Bill and his squads out of New England every season. But I'm going to give the win to Minnesota at home, making that 5-6. And then the Jets. Oh, man, back to back. The Patriots, the Jets, and then the Lions. 3 teams that I think could be sneaky this year. I think one of those games, at least one of those games, is going to be a loss for the Vikings. I gave the win over Detroit earlier, so I'm going to give a loss against Detroit in Detroit here. And then I'm going to give another loss to either the Patriots or the Jets, and then a win against one of them as well. That's just it's a hard one. It's a hard one to know what's going to happen with. But I don't see them winning both games against those AFC East opponents. I do see them winning one. So between those 3 games, they go 1-2, which then makes us 6-8. Playing Indianapolis in Week 15 at home. Indianapolis, probably my sleeper pick. Is it a sleeper pick? They have such a well-rounded team roster-wise. I don't know if it's really a sleeper. Are people already choosing Indianapolis? But that's a team I think could in some ways surprise people, and is my sleeper in the AFC right now. Same with I'd said in a previous episode about the Chargers. The Chargers are a team that could surprise some people, but again, are people actually surprised if the Chargers make it and have a solid run? I don't know. But I'm going to give a loss to Minnesota. Indianapolis with the win here, putting them at 6-9. And then Week 16, they play the Giants, putting them at 7-9. Something's not adding up here. Something's not adding up because I still have the Miami game to go back to. I'm going to revisit through these just to make sure, and we'll do a quick 2-minute drill, if you will. So if this is the only part you hear coming forward, you'll be able to hear what I have for each team. So for the quick 2-minute here, maybe I should do this with each episode, is at the end of it, give a little 2-minute drill, shooting through and reviewing who I have winning in the schedule. Not a bad idea. Maybe I should do that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But I got a surprise win against Packers, 1-0, a loss at Philly, 1-1, a win against Detroit, 2-1, a loss overseas against New Orleans, 2-2, a win at home against Chicago, 3-2, a win in Miami, 4-2, into the bye week in week 7, coming out of the bye week against Arizona, a loss, 4-3, traveling to Washington, a win, 5-3, traveling to Buffalo, a loss, 5-4, back home against Dallas, 5-5, a win and a loss between Patriots and Jets weeks 12 and 13, putting us at 6-6. Traveling to Detroit in week 14, losing 6-7. Traveling back home to play Indianapolis, losing 6-8. Week 16 at home against the Giants, 7-8. Traveling to Lambeau week 17, a loss, 7-9. And then traveling to Chicago, getting a win to end it, 8-9. So here, reviewing through, I get about an 8-9, but guys, there's such a swing in I've been doing a 1-game swing either way, and I really think, man, I don't think they go 8-9. I think maybe they win that game against the Saints and go 9-8 and potentially earn. I think I'm gonna go with that. I think I'm gonna go with a 9-8. They don't seem to me like a team that will go 8-9 this year. I see a winning record. And especially in the NFC North, the NFC North, they're going to win they're going to win their battles against the Bears. They're going to potentially win both games against the Lions. They're definitely going to split against the Packers. I don't see a 5-1 division, but I said earlier, 4-2, maybe 3-3. I'm leaning towards that 4-2. So I'm going to settle on it. I'm not going to fight around with it anymore. Here it is. The Vikings go 9-8 as of right now, which means they have an 8-10 win swing. And actually, I'm looking right here, and I had that 8-10 win swing for Minnesota when we talked about it on TikTok Live as well. So that did not change for me. I don't know why that came out to 8-9. I just don't feel it. I do not. Sometimes you got to trust your gut. You know what I'm talking about, right? You got to trust your gut. And I've got Minnesota going 9-8. Tell me what you guys think. Am I off? Am I better with the 8-9? Am I too high, too low? Give me your guys' thoughts. And next time we hop on here, next episode, we will talk about a team from the NFC East. Probably the Washington Commanders. Some surprises that could happen there as we continue through the one team from each division, predicting the 2022 season. Look forward to catching you in the next one. See ya.